actually, I'm going to pause for a second. All right. So I just wanted to introduce Tijen Genco here with us today. So last year I took a class called Laser Focus Coaching, and there were some amazing instructors there. And this is where I met Tijen Genco. And I really wanted to share her with our coaching community and give everyone the opportunity to see all the magic that she provides in coaching. And she was more than happy and willing to contribute and join us today. So here's a little bit about Tijen. She has a diverse and rich history in her education, her career, her culture, her background, and her experience. I definitely won't have time to go over everything, but here's just a few highlights. She has a bachelor's in electrical engineering. She has a master's in organizational behavior and coaching. She is a master black belt in Lean Six Sigma productivity improvement methodology. She's a meditation and yoga teacher, an executive life and well-being coach. In addition to mentor coaching, teaching, she has several books. But what is most fascinating for me about Tijen is how she combines hardback science.
It was a hard frost last night, but I don't know.
Can we?
Please mute yourself.
Perfect, thank you. What I really loved about Tijen is that she combines the hardback science with the art of coaching and the transcendental part of it. And this is where her magic and her secret sauce, I think, comes through. So, and one of the things that I really appreciate about her is her humbleness and this peace that she exudes everywhere she goes. So Tijen, I'm going to hand it over to you, and thank you for gifting us with this opportunity.
My pleasure. Thank you for hosting me, and thank you everyone for coming here. I appreciate being with you. As Nanor said, I welcome interactive session. Take me as your facilitator of a discussion that we are all we're gonna mute somebody here. We are all carrying our knowledge, so happy to listen to yours as well. And I am going to say that we have 2 hours, seems a lot. Ain't gonna be enough, because I wanna give you a little bit of interactive demo at the end, and I wanna give about an hour to that. So I will do my best to pass through the content to give you the highlights of it. There is the book available for you to look at it offline. And then if you need to practice more about it, you're welcome to join me in my mentor sessions monthly that will give you further practice opportunities. Sound good? Thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways, good. All right, let's get started then. And so Genco Method Think Beneath the Thing is something that I came up with because of my kind of listening to the people coaching and too much in the transactional level. And we're going to get into that little later. So I want to, Nanor introduce me already to you. What I want to say that with my background in mastery level with Lean Six Sigma methodology, we talk about $1 million question. I actually asked $20 million questions in the corporate world. And today that we're going to get into that, how do we ask the meaningful questions that help us to define the outcome that matters, so that we don't just take something in the first face value and move around with it. And I was going to give you a bunch of examples from my life, but we'll get to that if we have more time at the end. So, and again, I'm going to share with you what I found as the best practices as a coach and the process excellence expert. One of my things is to always look into what makes this a best practice. And I test different methods on my own first, and then on my clients, and then they also get to be validated through my students as well as their own clients. So you will be receiving a lot of best practices validated through that. But if it doesn't make sense to you, just put it aside. If it makes sense to you, take it and make it your own. So I just want to start the session with talking about distinction in the types of coaching in the way I teach it. There is the transactional coaching. Of course, it has its own merits. And what it does is really alters the person's behavioral response to something that is happening. And that doesn't necessarily get into the underlying issue, the thing beneath the thing that creates that outer response in the human psyche, human behavior. And often that when somebody says, oh, I have a messy desk, and then the coach asks, okay, what do you want to do about the messy desk? Then it gets into how the person cleans the desk. But we never talk about what makes that messy desk a problem for you. When we start ask deeper questions, we get into transformational coaching a little bit. And that gets into the little bit more emotions, the behavior, the how the persons understand, and so on, the event. And then there is the even deeper more transformative method, which I call the Genco Method Transcendental Coaching. In that case, we get to the level, to the person's relationship to the whatever that they are expressing. So what is your relationship to the messy desk gives us a different information than what do you want to do about the messy desk. So the deeper you go in then in the coaching conversation, higher the sustainability rate becomes, because you are transforming the cognitive distortions, how people relate to world, how people make meaning about the world, and therefore you're changing the underlying schema of the person's operating model versus you're just talking about the behavior around what is happening. So that was coaching, I call it in the transactional level, little bit of Band-Aid solution. Again, it has its own merit. Some people wants to stay there. But then my niche and expertise is to get you to the deeper, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So we are going to, and again, the whole coaching process includes all of these things, and it is harder to document, although I'm a skillful process creating person. I looked at the hundreds of processes in the corporate world as I brought them into its own excellence level. It's harder to create a process of coaching because it's not necessarily a process in the actionable way. There is a being, the art part of the coaching. So I documented these processes in the book of Coaching with Precision as much as I can for you. And I also am going to share what is in the book here today. And that's going to be this in this part of the, in this part of the beginning part of the coaching conversation. So we are going to expand that part. Then let's talk about it as we get into the agenda setting part of the coaching conversation. What needs to happen there? there are slight differences. I know that there are also NBHWCs here, National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coaches, and there are some other organizations that they have different competencies, slightly different competencies. I actually assess across the multiple organizations, so there is a commonality, and you can see in any coaching conversations across the different organizations. There is the welcoming question. Welcome to the session. What would you like to talk about today? That's the focus question. And then again, in the transactional space, there isn't much initial exploration. The coach often says, okay, so what do you want to walk away from the session right after that question? But in my methodology, I'm asking and welcoming and encouraging you to do an initial exploration so that we get to the thing beneath the thing that is the underlying issue around this. And once that is understood, whatever the thing beneath the thing is, client arrives to a moment of first awakening, that first glimpse of understanding what is blocking them towards what they want to experience. And that's, we call it, I'm going to talk more about it later, we call it moment of first awakening in my methodology. And after that, the client learns something about themselves or the issue at hand, then that learning needs to be integrated into their being, and then we can ask the outcome definition. And when we ask the outcome definition, we still need to do some exploration about what needs to be resolving for them so that they can get to the outcome. So it is in a way 5-step process. But it's not necessarily fully linear process. There is obviously, because of its nature of artistic part and more subtle part, there could be a bleeding between these steps, not necessarily the first question, the session focus question, but the rest of it is more fluid than a linear, okay? So when I say that in the beginning, don't get into much, I welcome my students often to be as creative as they want to be throughout the session. But in the beginning, I say, don't get into creativity because that's like the contractual part of the thing. And you need to be much more focused in a way. So welcome the client. And I necessarily, in my methodology, don't recommend you get into how are you, what did you do, and so on, because it takes away precious prime session time. And often it's not used. And then it gets to be abrupt, shifted into what they want to talk about. So ask the client, welcome to the session. What would you like to talk about today? And they're going to give you a whole bunch of things, blah, 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 blah. In that blah, 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 you need to be distilling. And when you're distilling that in the Genco methodology, what you're looking for in that blah, 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 what metaphors the client are using? What are the emotionally charged words that you can feel them, intuit the emotionally charged words? Client may repeat them. They can say it in a most intonal way. The word itself can have emotional value, like I don't like this at all. Even if they say it, it's a very steady tone. And then there are themes that can come up, such as boundary setting, self-worth, self-value, and then their needs, explicitly defined or ambiguously expressed needs. So you need to be paying attention to those things, and your reflection, when it has merit in it, needs to reflect these things to the client to offer the clarity. So I am giving you this in a shape of a funnel, because client is going to give you this much blah, 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 blah. And if your reflection expands the conversation further, or you're asking questions that are not necessarily helping the client to distill, but gets into more of the drama thing, you will expand the conversation. And then I hear from unexperienced coaches, oh, how can you coach in 30 minutes? It's because you don't ask expansive questions in the beginning. You ask narrowing questions with your distillation. So in the beginning, we need to support the client. We need to do a lot of work in the beginning with our distillation process to help the client to get to a level of clarity which they need as we walk towards thing beneath the thing. And therefore, your listening has a lot of importance in there, that your listening needs to be very skillful. And that's, I call Genco method holistic listening. You cannot only listen analytically. You need to sense what the client is bringing to the room, even if they are not saying. Your sensational experience as part of the conversation needs to include in your initial reflection. You'll need to include your instincts, your intuitive, whatever you're downloading from wherever it is, it needs to be included in there. There seems to be, I'm sensing this, I'm feeling this, and then maybe you're getting some visions about it. You're hearing some things in your own spiritual way, because coaches are part of the equation. You get to reflect on these things to the client to validate whatever you're receiving. But you need to listen like that to get to the client to a narrower space than you started with. Okay? Any questions about that? Good so far? The speed okay? Yeah. Okay. So as we listen, I'm also giving you the Lean Six Sigma processes. We can use something called affinity diagram. So people often ask me, oh, how are you getting all these words that when I'm mentoring, we didn't hear those things, clients. I'm paying attention and I'm writing down whatever the things that if they're going like blah, 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 oh, okay, whatever that is, I'm writing it down. And they said something and then they go back and say it again. Okay, I'm writing it down. I'm feeling something, I'm sensing something. So this is whatever they express, we need to categorize, organize, and present it in a way they can understand that as we distill the process. So let's have a look at this. Just pick out and start putting in the chat that what are the Genco method significant words here? What are the themes? What are the needs? And I'm giving you a confused client verbatim, exactly how she said to me. Overwhelmed, busting my busy wax. Yes, busting. Poor boundaries, absolutely, yes. Boundary is the theme, one of the theme. Well done, Karen. Under pressure, yes. Coping. Prioritization, yes. Values, values is another theme, yes. Get clarity when stopped, max capacity. Absolutely. So then your initial reflection needs to include those things. There is the self-care. Yes, Aliona. What matters the most? Yes. So Heather, come off mute. What matters the most? How are you going to present that?
I think to me, it's the reflection about, spending time with the family, her relationships. And then, counterbalance to that is all the time she's spending work, which seems like it's taking away from what matters most to her.
Yes, well done. Yeah. So what seems to me in that was that client working a lot and then recognizing, oh, well, I'm not spending enough time with my family. Although she says, that was a she, I'm not spending time with what matters to me the most. But there was also some level of attachment to overworking. So that's what I was sensing as a theme of a conflict within the values and the behavior. So that's how we start to get the distillation. So she gave me all these things and I can say, there seems to be a conflict within what you need and what are you doing? As simple as that. Now you can see we reduced the session time about 30 minutes, right? So then that's why we need to listen with care and understand these themes. And it may take a little bit while for you because unfortunately, most coach training organizations teaches the coaching in a transactional level. Then you need to unlearn all that to get to the better skill set. And so this is why I'm saying, listen holistically, listen with your entire being. And this session ended up being her self-worth and value. And she was struggling also when she was at home doing a lot and when she was at work doing a lot. And she couldn't actually get the help she needed. And when she convinced herself that it was okay for her to get some help at home, then she could spend quality time with her family. And also she could negotiate, because it was about her self-worth, she could also negotiate what kind of work she could have gotten it. And you can never imagine that people can be in a bunch of very impressive positions and still expressing things like that. This person was a PhD NASA scientist at a very executive level that you would not think about this at all, right? So don't assume things, listen carefully to understand what is the Genco method thing beneath the thing. Pay attention. So we're going to practice this. This is why I'm rushing through. So we all get to practice it for the rest of the session. But how clear was that? Give me thumbs up, sideways, down. Up. Yeah. Good. It just takes a practice. Practice makes things better. Okay. So then this is where I told to you about what is this about. When you look at somebody is giving you this blah, 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 you need to ask this question, what is this about? Because then you are not necessarily coaching the context. You are coaching the relationship to the context that gets you more to the Genco method transcendental coaching. You are looking here, what makes this a problem for this person, right? as I mentioned, this is a NASA scientist. And I remember in one of my mentor sessions, there was a Marine. He was the strategy person in that Marine Corps. And he came, I need a plan. And I'm thinking, no, you don't. You're an expert in this. And the practice partner was coaching this person to make a plan. Don't do that. Just consider who the client is and how come this is a problem for this person, right? Get inspired by that. What brought them to that session? They are not coming to us for the things they can already know. They know already how to do it. They're coming to us because something is blocking the view. That's where the coaching value is about. Yeah. Okay. So in this, then, what we're doing, and this is a little bit of repetition to show you, we ask, okay, welcome to the session. And then client, what would you like to talk about? Oh, I have so much work to do at work and I don't have time for my family. And then we are looking into the thing beneath the thing. And between this response to the client's specific needs statement, that's the time that we spend is called Genco Method. What is this about? We're trying to figure out together with the client. And remember, you're not alone in this. You're partnering with the client to figure out what is this about. It's another mistake that I see often in my students. They think that they are alone to figure it out. You're not alone. You have a partner, that's the client. And so you need to keep asking and clarifying and asking but you have to do your job. What is your job? Is distillation and listening with your entire being. Okay, you need to help them to categorize, help them to see. And then client, once I said to the client, there seems to be a conflict between what you're doing and what you're wanting, or whatever it is, then client comes to a first glimpse of, oh yeah, I can see that now. And that's that's the moment called Genco method of moment of first awakening, first glimpse of light. Then in my methodology, I say, okay, with that awareness, what is it that you like us to walk towards? I still don't ask what is the outcome, because they're just figuring it out, right? It's still gonna need some crafting, some conversation around it. Think about this. You have been coached many times,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And when
I can't figure out her accent.
Okay. So how clear were you in the beginning of the session that what do you want to walk away from the session with? I do a ton of self-reflection, even I don't know. I can come to you from the transcendental level with my explanation. I won't tell you I'm a messy desk. I will tell you when I look at my desk, I feel like I'm falling behind my life. Now you already know I'm giving you a lot of stuff. I figured it out already, but I still need your help to figure out what makes me feel like I'm falling behind my life when I look at my desk. That's where the conversation is. And so when the client comes to the first moment of awakening, GMMFA, you need to say, okay, so what, with that understanding, what are your discoveries? They are going to tell you, you may have some ideas what they discovered. I highly encourage you to ask the client, because they are brilliant. You're going to be like, oh, I thought that was this. How come, how beautiful. And you're going to learn from them. And the way they say it to you, guess what's happening when they tell you something? They are teaching you. And when they teach you, they integrate whatever they learned into their being at a much deeper level, because teaching integrates stuff into our being. So ask the client often that, what is it? What did you discover? What's happening? So we ask when they arrive to the Genco method moment of first awakening, what are your discoveries up until now? What did you just discover about now, about yourself now, about the agenda at hand now? What is happening to you now? Let them say it to you. And then you can say, when we started, you were talking about balancing out your values. Now you're at a point to recognize it may be about self-worth. Where would you like us to walk towards? So you need to, again, as a coach, show them the travel that you traveled together, the distance you traveled together. Okay. And then they will tell you, yeah, I think I need to work around my self-worth. So what about the self-worth? Now we try to craft the outcome. What about the self-worth that requires further discussion? What about the self-worth needs more clarity? What about the self-worth? What are we looking for around the self-worth? Oh, maybe I need to feel better about myself. What is better? How are you going to recognize that? So we're going to get into that now, okay? And stop me anytime if you have questions. So Genco method, think beneath the thing, we talked about it. We need to distill, inquire, figure out. This is in the beginning of the conversation. Client is giving you the tip of the iceberg. And when we understand what might be the real issue, we are not under the iceberg. We are just figuring out there is a structure under the surface. That's we are recognizing. We are not understanding what is that structure, how deep it is, what kind of life living on it, what kind of mind of its own has. We are just figuring out, oh, there is more to this. And it is appearing differently at the surface, but maybe it's going to be different. What is creating this is different. So that's what the thing beneath the thing recognition is. And we talked about Genco method moment of first awakening. Client recognizes, oh my goodness, this isn't this. I am now understanding that my relationship to the messiness, looking at a messiness makes me feel like I'm falling behind my life. Okay, so maybe this is the emotion I need to look at. This is something else I need to look at. That's the moment of first awakening. And as we get to the discovery of the session, which I am not going to get into there today, and the book I have published about this content doesn't have this yet. It will be the sequel when I have more time to get you there, right? That's the Genco method discovery exploration is not included in today's discovery, but we are basically asking the initial agenda statement. We explored the thing beneath the thing. We figured out there is a more to the structure, and then we can start this setting the outcome before we get to the exploration, because exploration needs to be tightly connected to that outcome. Okay, and I mentioned earlier that I asked $20 million questions. During one of my corporate projects, that licensing department wanted to get $20 million technology upgrade. I go there, oh, we can't finish this enough. We have to produce much faster. We have to do these much faster to send our research to the research department so they can get the compounds and we can produce the medicine for the licensing. So that board asked me to go figure out what is happening. So I go there. Okay, so who needs this? I often ask, who cares and what makes this a problem? So I asked them, who cares about this outcome? All the research department. When was it last time that you asked them, what do they do with the output that you're producing? Oh, it was about 7 years ago. Okay. So the 7 years ago needs, how is it that you know it's still the same? Oh, we don't know. Okay, let's find out. So the long story short, we figured it out that the research department does need a research from the licensing office. And then licensing office has two types of staff. One are the PhD people and other ones the librarians. Everybody was acting like a librarian, researching and sending them the whole bunch of information. Research department needed more in-depth research from the PhD people to make intelligent choices that did not require faster information producing. It required more quality information. So at the end, that we upgraded the system for $2,000, didn't spend 20 million. And then they restructured the whole project, whole organization. We restructured the whole department. So whether you are in the executive coaching space, life coaching space, health and wellness coaching space, ask questions that matters to help you use your curiosity, help the clients as you're setting out the outcome space. It's so important that in every coaching conversation, you're making these $20 million decisions with the client for the outcome they want from the session. Clear? Yeah. So then we need to understand what is the high level need and what is the issue at hand. If somebody says, I'm struggling to understand how to parent a teenager, and I highlighted, bolded out some of the things here for you, then you can get to an understanding, there seems to be about a behavior change. What is this about, right? And then maybe values. The first thing I'm thinking, what is this about? There is a struggle, but the struggle isn't about how to parent. It is about shifting the core values around something. It seemed that way, but eventually, again, you can actually listen to this conversation on my demo, on my website demo, that it turned out to be her self-confidence. It wasn't about even the value adjustment. Yeah. So then we get to the specific outcome statement along with the client, and we need to specify the outcome measures. And outcome measures needs to be relevant to the outcome itself. And here, what I see often that what trips coaches up is their relationship to the world around themselves. If you are relating to the world analytically, but the client is bringing you an emotional thing, your questions often get to be analytical. So pay attention to the languaging. If the client is giving you an emotional issue, make sure as you distill this information, even though emotional language may not be your language, use their language as you craft the outcome. So there are multiple outcome types in the Genco methodology. It could be emotional, the cognitive, how we learn. And it could be thinking errors. It could be behavioral, how we are relating to the outer world. And then underneath of it, you can see my advanced coaching trainings along with it. It goes with this somatic outcome. Maybe they want to feel something differently, maybe want to experience something in their body, how the biology process something differently. And energetically, it could be an energetic outcome, right? Frustration, for example, it could be emotional and energetic. So you need to listen that way. It could be neurologic in a way that we react to things. My example, I look at my desk, I automatically feel sad. I'm reacting to it without bringing into my cognition that it's just desk, it's not me, it's not about me. Something is happening, my nervous system is responding to that. And then transcendental outcomes is actually about how we relate to the world, how we relate to our beliefs, how we relate to our values. So it's in a way that we need to come to a different level of relationship, which I call it the blueprint, so that our response to the whole world around themselves is going to be different. Alyona?
Oh, thank you. I have a question about these outcomes, because in a way, it feels to me that every outcome is moving towards transcendental or this neurological, but
Correct.
You also outlined those first ones. So it's basically what outcome client desires, right? We're trying to get, rather than trying to get them to transcendental one eventually.
We are not going to try to get them there, but we will be invitational with our reflections, with our questions. And if the coach cannot get themselves to that level, often then conversation is going to spend right here. What happens is that the transactional conversations often stays at the behavioral and thinking level. Transformational, it starts to include cognitive and emotional. And when you get deeper into the thing beneath the thing and transcendental level, then you're including everything in this page, right? But that's where you get to start. Thank you for that question, Alyona, that the transactional, why I am not, I encourage all of you to get behind, below the transactional level, so that's where the transformations and life-altering changes can occur. How helpful was that, Alyona?
Yeah, it helps to understand that you are inviting them, but it also depends where you really are as a coach, how practiced you, how much you practice to take clients there. I guess on that depends how skillful you are to really take them there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alyona. And this is why that those of you who have been with me for a while, you hear me say, do your self-work, do your self-work, do your self-work, because if you haven't done it, client is going to, even let's say I've been meditating over 25 years, right? Your client can be somebody like me, and they can give you the whole thing beneath the thing in a golden platter. But if you haven't done anything, you're going to ask me the transactional question and you're going to get a sassy Tijen out of it. I'm not going to, I will be, short with you if you ask me that sort of question. So do your self-work so that you can relate to someone else that level. You can invite them to that level. And if it's not your thing, that's fine. We all live our life with our own values. I'm here because I love that. I'm teaching you that. And you're here, probably something about what I'm offering resonated with you. So welcome to the depths, right?
Tijen?
Yes.
We had a couple of other questions in chat,
Sure.
and I just wanted to make sure that I got them to you.
Mm-hmm.
One is relatively recent. Let me see if I can pull it up. Whoops. Okay. All right. Well, this one came up earlier. All right. When in the process are you asking them about where they'd like to get, or are you assuming you know the outcome and are trying to guide them towards it?
I will never, ever, ever guide anybody towards anything. That's the coach's hidden agenda. If I am feeling something, I have to express it. And if they say, oh yeah, I mean, obviously 20 years of meditation, coaching hundreds of thousands of hours, assessing that much things. So I get to see the stuff right away. And I will present it. My ability to see things are enhanced, but that doesn't mean that I know the absolute truth. So why we just present it, and then they see what they say. How does that land on you? What do you think about that? What are your thoughts? There seems to be this, and I'm hearing this, and it seems like there is something else. I'm picking up energy, blah, blah, whatever it is, presented in the form of a data and craft the outcome. Did I answer that question? Who asked that?
That was Ellen.
Ellie?
Well, I don't know, because I asked that question because the way in which you were presenting outcomes seemed as if you weren't so much crafting them, but more were presenting them because you saw them and that's how you knew them to be, which seemed to then would guide perhaps what the person was then formulating after that.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fine, because we are, again, we are there to help them to see what they cannot see themselves. So it is then our job to present what we're feeling, sensing, intuiting, whatever it is. And then we keep sharing with them. And you can listen to the demos and see I'm constantly asking where we started, we're here now. Where are we going? Are we still working on the same thing? And because as they become more aware, they can change the outcome. So it's a continuous dialogue, Ellen.
Right. May I just add something? Is that in the beginning of the conversation, when you were initially contracting the conversation, maybe perhaps you do this, but in this particular one, what you didn't mention, whether or not you asked them, coming out of this conversation, what were they hoping to have an outcome of? Do you ever ask that, is what I'm asking? Like, is that?
I do. After the thing beneath the thing exploration, once they become to Genco method of moment of first awakening, then I ask that question. When we started, you expressed this, now you arrive to this understanding. With that, where would you like us to walk towards? They will tell me, and then I start to craft the outcome. Yeah. Thank you. Good.
And there's one more question that I'll ask that was in chat earlier, but I believe it's from Noemi, and it's, how do you recommend linking sessions? So if a client has a series of sessions, do you start by following up on the previous session, or do you start right in with the first question that you asked?
Yeah, I don't link the sessions unless that it's in an executive sponsored engagement. That could be an executive coaching scenario or a health and wellness coaching scenario. If somebody else is paying for the sessions, then I will say, okay, what is the contract whole engagement outcome, and what we worked on up until that point, and with whatever we still have left in the contract. And then I will say, with that, what are we working on today? So that's how I linked, whether it's an executive coaching scenario or health and wellness coaching scenario. If it is a life coaching or not sponsored coaching, then I will just start, welcome to the session. Where would you like to take us today? Or what would you like to discuss? Sure. Okay, anything else?
I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. So then let's quickly finish these to get to the example. So we then start to set the session outcomes and their indicators. So emotional outcomes are going to have emotional indicators. Somatic outcomes are going to have somatic indicators. transcendental outcomes are going to have consciousness indicators. So whatever the transactional outcomes are going to have actional indicators. We need to craft them accordingly. And that doesn't mean that session is going to have one outcome and one indicator. Session can have more than one outcome, more than one indicator. I often also do not like to ask the client to choose if they brought more than one thing, because that means there is somewhere in their psyche they relate to one another. That's why they're coming to the session with. So I ask them what's the relationship, how they come together for them. And if they say, oh, not at all, which never been happening in my case, then you can say, okay, maybe we need to, can we pick one of those things? But often that there is a relationship, and your questions uncover that relationship. So we asked the outcome, and we asked the coaching conversation question. We set the outcome, and then we need to ask baseline measures. So where are you with that right now in the beginning of the session? If the client says, I'm looking for a different kind of emotion about my desk, what is the current emotion? It's sadness. How do you measure that? Oh, well, it feels like heaviness in my chest. So then what is it that you want at the end of the session? I want lightness in my chest. How are you going to recognize that? These are the indications that we need to figure out, and baseline where the client is in the beginning and where they want to be at the end. And in the middle, at least get one more measurement. This is the scientific part of the coaching, right? So that you see, follow with the client, are you still on the right track? What's happening? In the beginning, you wanted to have, your chest was heavy. Every time client comes to an awareness, I ask the integration question. What are you discovered right now? With that discovery, what happened to the heaviness on your chest? What am I doing? I'm taking the measurement. I'm doing the artful part of the coaching, but I am also taking the measurements, the scientific part of the coaching. Client also now not only recognizing whatever they are becoming aware of, they're also recognizing what's happening in their chemistry, in their biology, in their consciousness. Yes? No, none, or?
No, it's yes. I'm shaking my head because I'm in awe of all that you bring in, you know? So thank you.
Yeah. So that's what we do, the measured the client's process. And now we're going to get into playing with it. Questions before we start to play with it. Okay. So
I have a question, and so does Aliana.
yeah, go ahead, Nano, since you're off mute
Okay,
already.
so mine was, you know, in the beginning you said ask more like narrowing questions to create more clarity instead of expanding questions.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm still a newbie coach a little bit. So can you just, I guess I'm not sure what that looks like off the top of my head.
We're gonna see that in a second.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome. Good, Aliona.
I'm wondering with this methodology, how do you differentiate between the therapy and transformation?
Right, the therapy, there are major distinctions. The therapy, often it comes with the therapist is greater than the client. Therapist decides where to go, when to go, what the plan of action is, right? The therapists are here, some of them. And there are some changes in the therapy field getting more collaborative approach. The motivational interviewing was one of them, but there is the main distinction. The second is that in the therapy, some of the therapeutic methods and evidence-based part. Therapist asks the questions about the past or what dwells the client and gets into that. In coaching, not that I'm insensitive, I'm one of the very sensitive human beings here, but who cares who did what to you? It's irrelevant. It happened. So we don't need to dwell on who cares about what happened, and that person isn't even in the room. What we need to do is what is your response to whatever happened to you, as tragic as it is? And what are you going to do about that? So that's the distinction between the therapy and coaching. Helpful?
Yeah, super. Now
Good.
it brings more questions, but I'll keep them for now.
All right, we had one more question, I think, in the chat, Nahi.
Yes, yes. This is from Liz. How do you navigate clients that have a hard time understanding their feelings? People who are not currently somatically in tune, for example.
Sure. I mean, then don't use the emotional language, right? I'm giving you that information for the people who are speaking the language of emotion. I hear when I'm doing assessments, which I've done close to thousands of them, they like client is talking about, oh, I feel sad, and coach says, what are you going to do about this? So they are talking about the action response, or the client is talking constantly action things, and then the coach says, how do you feel? It just match with it and present it to the client. I remember when I was doing a mentor coaching, the person came into the circle. She was talking about how excited she was. She just published a beta version of her book. And she was talking and talking, and there was no emotion at all. She's telling that how excited this is for her. And I said, but I'm hearing no emotion at all in here. Our job is to share the observation. And then she said, oh, you're right. I'm actually very sad now with that question. I'm realizing, because I've been working on this for 5 years and now it's done. I feel post-mortem sadness. So it doesn't matter whether they talk about the emotional language or not. We're just inviting them for the awareness if it is necessary. If they're not talking emotional language, just don't use it then. How helpful was that? Yeah, good.
That was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good. Any other question? All right. What are your thoughts on challenging the client? Absolutely. We need to challenge the client. And thanks for that, Naomi. Often people think that compassion is the niceness. The compassion is not the niceness and not keep getting your hands dirty. Compassion is to be able to share with the client whatever you're observing for their benefit with a lot of love in your heart. And the compassion also have fierce qualities in them. That's where the surgeon gets to do the surgery to take the tumor out. If somebody is coming to you with a cancer diagnosis, you can't give them a Band-Aid and send them home. You need to at least tell them what's happening as you see it. Okay, good. Any other questions? Okay, we'll have more time for the questions at the end. And what we're going to need is a client. Who would like to be our client for today? And don't worry about it. We're not going to get into the whole coaching. We're going to practice the agenda setting part of the session. Okay. Any volunteers? Rachel, thank you. Okay. Now let's highlight Rachel. Good. And let's see. Before I do that though, let me actually go back to the gallery. And I'm going to need about 10 coaches to make this more easier to manage. Let's see, 10 coaches. Aliona, 1. Kibi, Michael. Can Nahid and Nanor help me to pin those as well? Aliona, Michael. There was one more person who wanted to be a coach, Kibi, right? Mm-hmm. And then we have Rachel, our client. Who else? Barbara?
Nahid, are you taking care of it? I can see you intently looking. Oh,
We
you're on
have-
mute. Nahid, you're on mute.
I'm gonna try to do this. Allow multi-pin, okay.
All right. Okay, so.
Okay, I'm gonna have, yeah, people who already raised, yeah, please keep your hands up so that I can add the pin.
Yep. So I think it's add spotlight so they can all be spotlighted together.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So we have Rachel, Barbara, Kitty, Pinky, Aliana. Who else? Liz
We
or
had Michael.
Michael? Okay.
And Lynn.
Keep your hands up, guys. I'm scrolling through you.
Okay.
I might have missed somebody.
All right.
Who are our brave souls, our brave coaches?
Anyone else? All right, Nano, why don't you come in because you wanted to practice? That's enough, right?
Sure.
All right, good. So what we're going to do is to practice the Genco method distillation process. You need to pay attention to the significant words. Our desire is to get the client to the level of moment of first awakening and by discovering the thing beneath the thing. So client is going to express what's happening for them. And we're not going to coach you. You're not going to take all of it by yourself. I'm going to help people to dialogue. And then you will get to ask your questions one at a time. And I will offer in the moment feedback. Is that clear? Yes, good. Thank you, Rachel. Go ahead and tell us what you have for us.
All right. I have a former business partner, friend, colleague that I was close with for almost 5 years. And we had a separation last year. And I said there was a lot of like messy stuff that happened in the last year that created a lot of resentment on my part. And I can make stories about where she's at, but we kind of walked away from each other and I said I needed space. And now there's a situation where we're going to have to be coming back together in a group. And I'm surprised that I'm feeling so much negativity around it. And I don't really know what to do, if I should stay in the group, if I should stay away. I want it to not matter, but it is bothering me. And it's not a situation where I feel like I can have a conversation where we're both coming to the table, kind of owning our parts. And so I'm struggling with what I do with it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so what were the significant words?
Separation, messy, resentment.
Mhm. Okay. What
Yes.
else? Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
Feeling
Negativity,
negativity.
negativity
What
and
to do.
struggling about what to do next.
What to do next?
Confusion.
Yeah. Confusion.
I wanted it not to matter.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Anything else did we hear?
Heavy
Others-
breathing.
Needing space.
Yeah, needing space. And just
Mhm.
it's kind of exasperation, like a little exhausted.
Yes, good catch. You're giving me the words. What else you picked up?
Surprised at how I'm feeling, how negative I'm feeling.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, okay. All right. What was the emotion?
Rejection of
Oh.
one's feelings.
Heaviness.
Yeah, sadness.
Sadness. Mhm.
Mhm, sadness.
Yeah.
What indicated the sadness?
I heard it a long sigh. and a
Yes,
little bit of
breathing patterns.
and then like just kind of touching the neck. You could just sort
Yes.
of feel that she was just
Mhm.
just feeling a little down, just feeling heavy.
Yes. Yes, beautiful. So those are somatic cues Kibi and Michael are bringing forward. And those are also inflection, that size you need to pay attention to. And those are part of the holistic listening. Client was also, Kibi talked about touching the neck, and they are giving neurologic cues, looking away, not looking here. There were a couple other significant things that nobody mentioned yet.
There were some hand gestures of
Mhm.
like going away, coming together, and
Good, yes,
stuff like
neurologic
that, so,
cues. Uh-huh.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
There was
another emotion I heard was disappointment.
Yes,
mhm.
yes, Michael.
Yeah, I also maybe because she kept looking down, like maybe a sense of shame, like did she do
Yes.
something wrong? Kind of
Uh-huh.
not sure about her, like how much of this is her versus the other person, in terms of
Yes, good.
accountability.
Beautiful, Kiri. Yeah. There was one word used more than once that is often indicative of, again, neurologic patterning, NLP, and cognitive distortion. What was that?
Struggling.
Mm-mm. That was mentioned. Yeah, that's still part of it. Shoulding, should
Oh.
I do, should I that,
Wow.
should I this, right? And so what is this about? What are you getting it already?
Maybe a conflict between like kind of how she feels versus what she should do. Like her core feelings are saying, maybe I don't want to do this, but she's but is that the right thing? Like sort of
Yes.
judgment.
Inner conflict.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So this isn't about the other person. This isn't about all that emotion. Yes, that is, see, Rachel start to smile. So this is how we distill stuff. So Kibi, what are you going to say to the client? But remember, when we start in the beginning, we want to offer, which I didn't mention, very compassionate response so that they feel understood, and then bang. Okay, summarize. But Rachel gave us a very long explanation. We need to distill it now. All right, go ahead. Try what is your offering, Kibi. I will ask more than once. Yes.
Got it. Okay. Well, Rachel, I mean, first of all, it seems like this is really, really heavy for you, really hard. So I just want to honor the fact that you're, owning that. But I wonder if I'm observing sort of an inner conflict between what it is you kind of think you want to do versus what it is you are saying you should do.
Mhm.
How does that resonate with you?
Beautiful. Yeah. Rachel.
Yes, that resonates a lot. I'm like getting nervous again. There's elements of this that I've seen before when I was younger and I was bullied. So I can't tell how much I'm projecting onto this versus yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to take a minute? Are you okay? I mean, it's important. Yeah. To honor those feelings.
yeah, I feel very seen right now. So it's kind of a relief tears.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Well, how do you, I mean,
And Kibi,
oh,
wait,
sorry. Okay.
we're
Yeah.
not going to coach just
Oh,
yet.
okay.
Right. So what is happening now? So you can see that what happened? The iceberg, right?
Mm-hmm.
Structure started to appear. It would have taken a lot longer to get here if we didn't distill it like this. So who wants to talk about the thing beneath the thing and what just happened actually?
That moment of awakening.
Exactly. What are we going to do with that?
Mm-hmm.
Ask a discovery question.
Go ahead, Nana.
So Rachel, I'm sensing a lot of emotion that is coming up for you right now. What are you discovering?
I'm discovering that I have actually like denied my own like self-care. Like I kind of neglected myself and I continue to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'm letting it keep happening.
You see what happened? If we didn't ask the discovery, we had no idea that this is now the agenda shifted. Yes?
Mhm.
From the conflict into the inner conflict, into the now, we arrive to a point of self-neglect. Who wants to share the client, the journey that already has been traveled? And Rachel is like a trooper. She is awakening a mile a minute.
I'll try, Tijen.
Go ahead, Barbara.
So Rachel, when we started talking, you were talking about the friend and the separation and the pain that you felt there. And now you're talking about your self-care, and how does that land with you?
It doesn't feel new, but it feels like a new angle. So I've been working on holding myself, but this is a new angle. And I'm like, damn it, I want it to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there is a recognition, good job, Barbara, of it's the same song, same invite for the same ball, but it's just coming to you with a new pair of glasses. What's needs to be different for you about that, Rachel?
Even just hearing you say it's the same, I just heard it's the same song but different glasses, made me feel like, oh, I can do this. Like I've been through the ringer, or like I've been through growth and figuring out how to hold parts of myself that were rejected, and I can do this. Like that's what came through to me while you were talking. And so I think what needs to be different is like believing, embodying that I can do it different in this different arena. I just forgot that I've done this before because I was so fixated on the drama or the emotions of it.
Beautiful. What happened now?
Shift again in the agenda.
Agenda shifted, yeah. Client got another awareness, yeah. Who wants to repeat the process?
I can try.
Go ahead, Alan.
So I heard, Rachel, that you are discovering something very powerful, that actually you are the one who can shift the situation. What would be important for you about this?
Okay, so that could actually expand the conversation a little bit, Alyona. We wanted to show the client the road traveled and then maybe ask another discovery question. She said it, but with that discovery, what needs to be different or what is it, so that we are still narrowing and crafting. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
So can I try another?
Go ahead. Yes. Give the summary, the milestones. Yes.
So we started with the situation in your work, which makes you feel uncomfortable. And then we discovered that there is something about self-neglecting. And now you are discovering that you need a different perspective on the situation. What could be different for you?
Okay. What is and you want to do the things, discover the new ways of doing things, and you already know how to do that. With that, what are we walking towards? Yeah, so we start to now pave the way towards the outcome definition. Yeah. Okay.
So is it like, how would you like to use this discovery in our session today, or along those lines?
Yeah.
Or,
So with that, where are we walking?
where are we going towards? Got it.
Yes. Good, Kibi. Yeah. Rachel. Thank you, Alyona. Thanks, Kibi.
Where I'd like to walk towards is figuring out how I embody the ways in which I've been able to navigate my self-neglect in other arenas. How do I bring it into this space and start to not ruminate and stew, but start to like bring movement in a way that I know I can trust within myself.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rachel. She gives us very nice words. What are they now?
She wants to trust. Yeah.
Yes. Embody. Yes.
Movement.
Movement.
Navigate.
Yes.
And also, like, kind of, I wanted, it's almost like a system, like, so she sort of knows what to do. Like, how do we uncover that kind of thing?
Yes. Yes. It's transfer of skills. The technical name is that. She's looking for transfer of skills from one field to the next. So, yeah. Who wants to make this a nice package, put it in a golden tray and present that to Rachel? And look, she gave us, what kind of outcome indicators is she giving it to us on those words?
She says she needs to trust herself because she's done this before.
Right. So that's more of an internal shift, right? Transcendental shift. Right. Good, Pinky. What else?
Like an emotional one. Like, they're just like a assuredness, like a confidence. You know, to me, I felt that sense of feeling.
Absolutely. Good, Kibi. What else? She gave us a whole bowl of outcome. Yes, Pinky.
Adding to what Kibi is saying, it's confidence, self-confidence that I was able to get through this in the past. I can do it again.
Yes. Which was already present. Yes, go ahead.
I felt like there was kind of a need for a reminder or something, what would have been, because she sort of knows what she needs to do, but she needs to remember in a moment.
Yes, it's so the cognitive shifting, the learning from one way to the other one. Yes, good, Alyona. There was one more thing.
I don't know if this is it, but I feel there's a real momentum. Like that she's got her energies moving forward now. It's like, I'm ready. I need to go.
Yes, Rachel is giving you the whole thing that I gave you. There was one more thing in that my list, even if you didn't catch what she said.
Well, behavioral, like she wants to behave
Right.
differently. Okay.
And the somatic. What is the somatic indicator? Embodiment, I say it. Yes. So there seems then it also embodiment language that tells me energy is out here. She needs to take it in. So those are now, we have all bunch of good outcome indicators from all different countries. All right, who wants to clarify the outcome?
I can give it a try.
Go ahead, thank you.
Rachel, you shared with us that there was something bothering you where you discovered that you felt self-care was neglected and which led you to feeling emotional. And you discovered from there that you've actually lived through something of the sort before, and your focus is you. And having discovered that, you've recognized that you need to embody the solution as you've lived through this before. How do you feel having been through this journey?
Okay, so well done, Pinky, but you turned it into your language. How do you feel? So the easier way to do that, you don't have to even make a lot of stuff out of it. You can say, hi, Rachel. So I hear there is the need of embodiment. There is the need of movement. There is the need of figuring out. And there is the need of not ruminating, which is, by the way, stated in the negative. It needs to be in the positive. So with all that, what kind of outcome comes into your mind? So I don't need to even make everything. I'm giving her the gems she gave me back.
Do you want me to respond?
Yes, please.
The outcome that's resonating most for me right now is my body. I've tended to I had a lot of trauma in my body. So from here down, I'm learning how to cultivate safety within my body. And so the idea of being able to settle into the experience within my body feels like the rest will sort itself out.
All right. So I'm going to take it from here. So the energy that needs to settle into your body, throat below, where is it currently residing?
Right here.
On your throat. It's not outside, it's inside.
Yeah.
Okay. So what needs to happen to that energy at the end of our conversation to tell you you got what you need?
I need it to not be so concentrated right here and to have it actually is flowing down through my body and through the ground.
So like a waterfall effect, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So if the desired state is a waterfall effect, what is the current state?
It feels like choking, or like it's in like a locked box with tons of locks. It's hard to get to.
Okay, beautiful metaphor. So Rachel, you mentioned that, I'm not going to do the whole coaching, but you mentioned that you have done this before. You know how to do it, as hard as it was. You are the master of this now. And when you think about that, what happens to the locks and the boxes?
light starts to shoot out of it.
Mm.
Mhm.
Like it's ready.
It's ready, beautiful. So when the light is ready to shoot out of it, and sometimes those locks and boxes have a purpose. And when we don't necessarily display them properly, we get to use them improperly. If you were to put them in like a museum of Rachel, history towards superpowers, and they know that they are honored enough, what happens to them then?
They actually wanted to be there. So they opened up and they just went. It was pretty effortless, actually.
Mm-hmm. And so then what happened to the waterfall?
Ooh, it did not start flowing yet. I think it's not sure. It's like peering over. Like it's a really long way down.
So the long way down means it's a hard road to travel, or it's just not happened yet?
I don't know. It's hard for me to discern right now.
Okay. So although we talked about waterfall effect at the end of the conversation, seems like there needs to be preparation in your body.
Yeah.
To welcome that. How
Yeah.
true is that? Yeah.
That feels very true.
So,
I want to be there.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sensing that there is a sense of completion in this here. What do you, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to honor you, Rachel, for being our beautiful client today, although that we haven't, and by the way, if the client feels saturated, don't force it to the solution. That's why I stopped. So let's acknowledge the client before we finish our beautiful circle. Who wants to say what to Rachel for her work? Pinky?
Rachel, thank you for being super vulnerable, super brave, and allowing us this opportunity to discover with you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Ananor?
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you so much for your authenticity and sharing yourself so openly with all of us. You really, really contributed. So thank you for all of that.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you, Nanor. Kibi?
Yeah, I mean, I just am so honored by your courage and your fearlessness. And I, look forward to seeing you continue bring that to this current challenge, you're looking to overcome. So thank you.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Alyona?
I really see the strength, and maybe right now it's hard to connect with it, but as you recognized, you've been there, you've done it, and it really feels like you are on the way and you know what's coming next, and it's like, wow, it gives me goosebumps, and I feel super empowered and honored to witness your museum in making. I love that metaphor. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Alyona. Good. Sulin?
Thank you for allowing yourself to connect with your past and to now draw this bridge to your strength, which is the true you, your strength and your resourcefulness, and being able to, I guess, cross that bridge and move forward. Thank you.
Beautiful. Michael?
Rachel, what I'm most inspired by is the fact that you are giving yourself permission and patience to love yourself and to be with all of you. And it's an honor to be in that space with you. So thank you for taking this journey with us.
Beautiful. Thank you, Michael. Yeah. Barbara?
Much left to say, Rachel. Just you're very impressive and brave, and can't wait to hear the next steps of where you're going. It's going to be amazing.
Beautiful. So here is the thing that I'm going to say, that what is this about? At the transcendental level, this is a soul growth experience. And Rachel is actually coming out of the cocoon because she overcome what was presented to her. She is now feeling the weight of this resilience because she's now a coach and she's taking her leadership role in the community where people were bullied. That's what this is truly about. And that's where her hesitation was with getting to the waterfall yet. That sort of an role takes time to prepare properly. Thank you, Rachel. For what is it that you have been doing and what is it that you're going to be doing?
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, all these beautiful coaches. Well done. And so let's remove the spotlights from us and let's talk with everybody, take questions now. Okay. All right. So what is it that you are, how long do you think that this coaching would have taken you if you did not follow this method? Yeah. Okay.
Many sessions.
Right. Right. That's what Nanor was talking about, Tijen's secret sauce, right? Good. Thanks, Susan. What are your Kibi?
Yeah, I first of all, yeah, much longer. So I appreciate this. And it was helpful to also just kind of see it played out, like how much like control, quote unquote, we can exert in terms of the guiding and the reflecting versus sort of allowing them. Because I think that's kind of where I struggle with sometimes. But I did have a kind of a follow-up question. Just I honored and I really enjoyed seeing how you kind of respected that she wasn't necessarily ready to kind of go there. So what would be a potential follow-up to kind of keep the conversation and the session moving, but honoring the fact that maybe that's not something she's ready to, kind of dig into, or even uncovering that? I think I wasn't quite sure what would be the next.
Yeah. So
question.
The next thing would have been this support structure, where she is and how ready she is to stay where she is. She arrived a lot. She has done a lot of work in one session. You need to recognize that, especially when you're doing this deep coaching, right? So, and indigenous peoples talk about when you fly somewhere, you have to sit in the airport to wait for your energy to come to you. This level of transformation shifts the entire beingness. So that's what Rachel needed. And so I would ask that sort of questions, how she's going to support herself, what needs to have be doing to nurture herself, or whatever it is. And then acknowledge the client to show the road traveled, and which all of you did well. Yeah. And by the way, because of this, I'll tell the clients right off the beginning, I give them about an hour because I want them to have luxury experience in my presence. But I tell them that sometimes we will come to the session to a completion earlier because you get to the saturation point, so that they don't feel like I'm cutting it short. They just feel that. Yeah. Okay, good. Any other questions?
I'll just point out that the chat's been lighting up through the whole time, and I didn't want to interrupt the session. So, but there's a lot of support there for you, Rachel, and also a lot of engagement in learning through the coaching process as well.
Yeah, thank you, Nahid. Susan?
So I'd just be curious from the other coaches. I sort of, I was feeling Rachel's momentum, and then I just felt like there was a hard stop there. And I wondered if any of the other coaches sensed that she'd gone as far as she was going to go, just somatically.
Yes. Yes, that's why I stopped it. And it also sometimes remember this kind of transformation. I call that a little kiddie moment, that little kittens look at the mirror and scare themselves. You get to see yourself in your beauty the first time, like, oh, what, I can't, is it me? Not me. So that's what happens. And that's what the nervous system was telling me. And so I kind of gave her that moment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Noemi was asking something. What was that, Nahid?
I'd love to hear from Rachel what the process felt like for her.
Yeah, Rachel, would you be willing?
Yeah. I came in this morning wanting to know the thing below the thing. So I was like ready to like, let's do this shit. And I'd be curious what it would be like if I didn't want that, because I think I was all the prompts, I was ready to hear them and I wanted to go there. What was helpful was having like the really simple, like you care about in the embodiment of this, you care about, I can't remember the words, and the this, it was like so clearly I was able to go, okay, thank you. It's almost like if I'm like driving on a road trip and then I kind of lose sight of things, and then you know I call somebody and I'm able to recall that by saying like, here were the key pieces, and it just helped me to be able to flow through it really nicely. I also loved that I didn't feel pressured towards any sort of ending. I felt like there was a lot of me being able to be held in the experience as we like slowly, like I was like, you were all like allowing me to go deeper, and you were all holding me. I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but that was what the experience felt like for me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rachel. So what Rachel is saying, that Genco method, emotionally significant words, helped her that clarity, that distillation process I'm talking about. And so I'm wondering, some of you here have been my client and come to the sessions with some hesitation and not willing to change. And Rachel talked about her willingness to change, and that's what it is. I'm wondering if any of my clients here wanting to share without getting into details, what happens in those sessions for you.
I'll go.
Thanks, Barbara.
Yeah, it can be a little scary to be seeing some of the places where growth is needed, and quite emotional. I don't know. I wonder, Tijen, if everybody who coaches with you cries. I mean, it must be a daily thing.
It's written in my contract. Comes with waterproof mascara.
Yeah.
I get even veterans cry.
For me, the realization that I needed to work on those things that made me cry with Tijen in order to be a better coach for my clients, that's my motivation to work on those things. Because I came to her saying, I want to be a better coach. I want to be a better coach. And she's like, well, then you've got to go cry about this thing in your life and we talked about it, and I cried, and I'm still crying, and I'm writing letters to dead people, and it's working its way out. And because of that, I'm going to be a better coach. So it's a weird process, but it seems to be working.
Thank you, Barbara. So there is a Rachel's question is that if somebody is coming to you, and if your intention is to coach them at a deeper level or any level, that means that they already want something. Nobody is going to show up in a coaching conversation when there is no desire for it. They may in the sponsored engagements, and hopefully you're doing your chemistry sessions well to not to take that sort of an engagement. But if you're doing your job properly in the beginning and somebody came to you, you know that there is some part of them is ready for that. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Any other questions? What are you taking away from today? if anything? Aliona?
I had a question, if I may, still.
Yes.
Because now I feel kind of so much curious about the main part, which we didn't talk about. But if you maybe just like skim, like in terms of like system thinking, like if we did this distillation and we already did so many discoveries, like my mind now thinks like, what else is needed if not distilling more to that really the essence of the thing and just honoring it? Like, what is the main part then?
Well, there is still a discovery in Rachel, for example, how she can prepare herself, her system, her body, her energy to get to where she wants to go, what in light that she needs to see herself. And what we also get into the discovery by the, as I said, transfer of skills that she was looking for. That's an evidence-based methodology that got her there. And so there will be multiple conversations around that. And then there is the solution packing. That's where we do the risk planning and support structure and all that. And then we acknowledge to show the client the growth. Thank you, Nahid. Nahid is sharing the link for the book. And so there are other sections in the coaching conversations. And although we do the initial discovery in here, and often that takes care of the big part of the coaching conversation anyway. Once that you pinpoint what is this about, then client is gonna start, as you saw in Rachel, this is what happens. I'm constantly setting up the agenda because client is gonna keep connecting the dots, and then they're gonna do the work. But in order for them to do that work, you need to do your work. That's the distillation process. If you don't do that work, and you can see in our circle that I was correcting coaches' languages when they were getting into their own curiosities, not necessarily what client was bringing forward. You need to tame your curiosities to the level that it needs to focus on where the client is going, not necessarily where you want to go. Does that make sense? You need to be curious, but you need to tame your curiosity and magnetized by the client. Yeah, good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Kibi.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of getting back to your initial question around like, how are you feeling about the session and things? I mean, I think to me, that was one of the most powerful things around this is I'm a curious person. Like my background is in storytelling. I do interviews and all that kind of stuff. So this is a very helpful methodology to keep the curiosity focused on what the client wants and obviously on helping them achieve, that outcome in an efficient yet still transformational way. So very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Kibi. Yes, what are the other takeaways? Who is taking what? Nothing.
I'll share something. I can't wait to go back and watch the demo because I think I was so in it.
Yes.
And I loved how much I was able to like get there so quickly. And so I'm excited to go back and witness that again. But the other thing from earlier, all the different outcomes that are possible and actually listening to the language and the universe of the client and being able to speak in that way was just like blew it wide open for me. Cause I do often feel limited by, the trainings that I have had. And I'm so excited to play with that. And how effortlessly you seemed like you spoke to the transcendental reality of the experience I was having. I was like, how did you literally just do that? So that was so cool. So I love your modeling and thank you so much for that influence on me.
My pleasure and honor. Thank you. Anyone else? Anything? Susan.
I would just say just how important it is to continue to distill and distill. And just when you think you're at the the point of agreement, there's more distilling to be had to get to it, and
Yeah.
to really be patient with that process.
Yes, beautifully said. Thank you, Susan. And then you could see, going back to what Rachel said, don't make the choice alone, right? She gave us all these different outcome types, and we have our own preferences. As a coach, we are human, but this is why I'm trying to get you to different sensitivity level, so that you don't make that choice alone, even if it doesn't make sense to you. You're like, embodiment, that doesn't seem important. I'm going to go after the straighten my figuring this out, right? That's we love in the Western world, figuring things out. But don't do it. Collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. Beautiful. Thank you, Susan. Anyone else? TB?
Yeah, on that note, though, it sounds like it's not solely the client's job. I mean, because I think, like I said, it's sort of honoring the fact that, you know, the client's in control and you really want them to discover it, which is where usually the most like stickiness happens. But there is a need for us to provide some, I guess I'm just trying to understand, what are your thoughts on that? Because I think that's
Absolutely. You
Okay.
need to be present, listen holistically, keep distilling, presenting in this part of the process, and challenging when it's needed, in this part of the process. Absolutely. Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, you know what I loved, there was so much I loved about this, but really this holistic listening, and I hadn't seen them broken down in so many different ways. And then the other, I think the slide that you had just before that, where you were talking about the different types of objectives, I hadn't seen them broken down in so many different areas before. And so that's what really stood out for me in this training, amongst other things.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, those are my methodologies that I've seen over the years that people are missing. Always, most coach trainings are only about action, 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 ask this, that. It's limiting the client's experience in this case, as Rachel was talking about. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else? One final thought? Thank you, Holly, for your comments. Okay. Yes, Aliona.
Yeah, I had Michael reminded me my takeaway, and it's definitely still processing actually how you can or how you can approach from the analytical point of view. Am I freezing? Do you hear me?
Yeah, you froze a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to try again. That analytical aspect of investigation, even though it sort of feels also something what we overdo. Like, I feel like your approach is quite distilled in itself. And that's sort of fascinating me. Like, there seem to be certain paradox.
Yeah.
That the scientific fuels the spiritual, and they're not different.
Correct.
Yeah.
One in the same.
Thank you
yeah.
for that.
Thank you, Aliona. Yeah. As I give this back to the my beautiful hosts, just want to share with you, I think that you have the links for the book and the upcoming events, but you can see that there are some trainings. If you're interested in the neurologic training, is actually going to start June 3rd. If you're interested, I recommend that you sign up already. There is some pre-work, and what you experienced here is very similar to how I host my mentor sessions. So you can find more information on that in the website. All right. Now I can actually give it back to Nahid and Nanor if there are other things that they wish to share with you from the ICF OC perspective.
Thank you. Thank you, Tijen. Nahid, is there anything in chat that is important for us to know that you want to share? You're on mute.
There's so many wonderful comments. Tijen, I would definitely read through the chat. This is the missing link I've been looking for. So inspired by your wisdom. Well said. There's just highly recommend her courses. So lots of endorsement and empowerment there. So definitely read through it. And you know, because of the call we're on, all of you can save the chat. So you may want to save the chat for yourself, and you're all able to do that.
Thank you, Nahid. And I forgot to mention that next week I'm also doing 4 complimentary events for the International Coaching Week. So if you want to sign up for that, I have limited space left for the somatic coaching introduction, but the other has more room if you're interested in that.
And I put a link, I put the three links right together in the chat. So that third one is for the ICF events.
Yeah, thank you, Nahid. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming today and staying on. And I hope this was as delightful and magical as I had said that it would be. Rachel, again, thank you for your vulnerability and authenticity. One of my takeaways, Tijen, is there's a certain simplicity to the methodology. So the science part is kind of, let's say, not easy to follow, right? But the art and the science, the art part comes in the listening and the distilling. And when we were all in that group together, like Kibi's art was so different than than Barbara's art. And that's where all of that was coming in. And so that was one of my takeaways. So thank you for that. And then let's see, I just wanted to invite everyone to our upcoming event at ICF Orange County. We have Working with Embodiment, actually, and it's for International Coaching Week. And I just put into the chat the link to that. And you will be receiving 2 core competencies in a survey, so expect that pretty soon. And before I go, Petra, President, ICF Orange County, I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there anything you'd like to share or say to our beautiful community here today?
Apart from all the wonderful things that were mentioned, I want to thank Tijen for this wonderful and very exquisite session. It's much in my idea of this year for Orange County to offer more practical hands-on training, live feedback, all the wonderful elements that were part of the session today. And given your all's participation and presence here, I hope this experimental and more hands-on training really resonates with you. We're really hoping to bring more of that to you. Of course, we always need your kind feedback on helping us bring forth the types of events that are most helpful to you. And again, want to thank all the volunteers for this fantastic demo. And thank you again all for being here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you for hosting me, and thank you for coming here. It's been a pleasure to meet some of you. It's been a pleasure to seeing some of you. And yeah, and come and see us again sometime, somewhere in this planet.
I'm sure our paths will meet again. All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great week. Ciao.
Thank you.